Good morning friends, I am Ashis Agarwal from Team NGOenabler, and through this video I will try to handhold you in filling up the FCRA Annual Return in form FC4. To begin with, I would like you to recall our earlier video which was released on 19th December 2020 titled Pre-requisites for FCRA Annual Return 2020, wherein it was mentioned about three very important and mandatory requirements that you need to fulfill before you proceed with your annual return in form FC4. Opening and activating the FCRA account at SBI NDMB, quoting of Aadhaar number for all key functionaries or office bearers, and registration at Darpan portal. The video also provided the information related to the extension of due date for filing annual return of financial year 1920 to 30th June 2021. The due date still remains the same despite the fact that the due date for opening of the SBI account has been extended from 31st March to 30th June, which is the same date. Now, in our view, since filling up of SBI account details is mandatory for filing annual return, it becomes obvious for the MHA Department to consider the extension of the FCRA annual return at its earliest to avoid the last moment rush by the organizations. So now let's move on to see how to fill form FC4, the annual return under FCRA, which needs to be mandatorily filed by all the registered organizations. Visit the FCRA website by logging on to fcraonline.nic.in and then click on the tab Services under FCRA, where you will find the option of FC4 Intimation Annual Returns. After clicking on that option, this screen will appear. Then click to apply online, after which you will be prompted for the user ID and password. The first page which opens after you click on login shall provide you with 5 details. The details of the association containing the name, FCRA registration number and the date of registration, the current validity of the registration, the contact details of the association containing only the registered address, the details of the FC recipient account, which should ideally be your SBI account at NDMB if it is already approved by the MHA Department, and the details of the last return, whether submitted or pending. After clicking on the block year for which you need to file the return, the first section of form FC4 appears on the screen, where the details of the applicant or person or association, such as the name of the organization and FCRA registration details, is auto-filled. However, in the same section, one needs to fill the opening balance and foreign contribution received during the year. In our opinion, both the figures should match with the certificate provided for the relevant year by your chartered accountant. Also, the receipt details have to be given in 2 parts. In part 1, contribution received directly from foreign source, and in part 2, from the local source. Please note that this breakup can be given only till the FCRA annual return for the year 2020-21, because after the amendments which came into force from 29th September 2021, the concept of second recipient has been foregone. Before moving on to the next section, don't forget to click on Update Data. Next comes the continuation of the same section, wherein the interest earned on FCRA funds, whether bank interest or interest on fixed deposit made out of such funds, needs to be filled in point number 1 of part C. In point number 2, any other income which is generated out of the FC projects apart from the direct contributions needs to be reflected here. For example, sale of assets created out of FCRA funds, or income generated in the process of carrying out any FCRA project. So, in such cases, the name, location and the year of commencement of such project also needs to be mentioned. You can add as many projects and activities by clicking on this option. Then comes the section related to filling up the purpose-wise details of the foreign contribution. You can add the details by clicking here. After clicking, you will be prompted to another screen where the purpose can be selected from the drop-down list and the amount has to be filled manually. Please note here that the purpose should match with that mentioned in your original FCRA registration certificate, and also you are able to categorize the project for which such amount has been received under such purpose. I repeat, please note that the purpose should match with that mentioned in your original FCRA registration certificate, and also you are able to categorize the project for which such amount has been received under such purpose. Remember, the total purpose-wise amount should match with the donations received directly from the foreign source. The donation from local source is not covered by this section. In the next section, you can add the donors and the details such as the name, official address, email ID and website, the type of donor, that is individual or institutional, and the country to which they belong can be selected from the drop-down list available. Click on Save Data and the donor will be added to the list. Moving to the next section, that is the donor-wise details of foreign contribution. First you need to click here for selecting the donor. Then you can choose the donor or search them from the already existing list. Once selected, you can see the fields colored in grey shall be auto-populated with the details of the donor you filled in the previous section. Then you need to select the purpose from the drop-down list, mentioning the specific name of the project for which the donation was received and the amount before saving the data. Remember, in the donor-wise details, you need to fill all the foreign donations received during the year, irrespective of whether received directly from the foreign source or through the local source. Also, it is very important to note that the total donations should match with the figure as must have been mentioned in the CA certificate for the relevant year. Moving forward comes a section which provides you a check of your data whether the figures has been filled accurately or not. If the receipt figures filled in the different sections of the form discussed till now tallies with each other, you will see the word tallied mentioned in green against each figure, and if not, then untallied shall be seen in red color. In case any figure remains untallied, you need to again revisit all the previous sections to reconcile which figure went wrong and change it till this section shows tallied against each figure. From the next section starts the details of utilization of foreign contribution. So in part A of this section, the project wise details, I repeat, in this part of the section, the project wise details of funds needs to be reported. The project wise opening balance, receipt, utilization and closing balance with the location and complete address where such activity is being carried out also needs to be mentioned. In our view, following the matching principle, the figures filled herein should also match with that reported in the CA certificate. Accordingly, even the interest fund which does not belong to or cannot be allocated to any particular project sometimes should also be reflected as one of the activity in itself for matching the balances and total receipts. You can report it as other activity interest fund or other activity bank interest and any such similar nomenclature. In order to further elaborate, if you remember Form FC6, which was the annual return under FCRA before the FCRA Amendment Act 2010, did contain bank interest as one of the purposes in the 56 pointers the return listed out. I repeat, if you remember Form FC6, which was the annual return previous to the amendment in 2010, it did contain bank interest as one of the purposes in the 56 pointers the return listed out. So, interpreting the intention of the department from the format of the old annual return, it can be said that the bank interest can be shown as one of the activities in the existing form FC4 also. You can add as many activities and projects by clicking on the tab Add Activities or Projects. Once you are done with this section, you can move on to the next screen, which is the continuation of the same section, and here the details of the utilization needs to be filled in a summarized manner. In part 1, one needs to fill the total amount which has been spent towards the aim and objects of the organization, and in part 2, the administrative expenditure incurred by the organization as listed in Rule 5 of the FC Regulation Rules 2011 needs to be filled. Here you are also asked to provide the number of any foreigners working or associated with the organization. Before moving on to the next part of this section, don't forget to click on Update Data. Here you need to provide the details of any assets purchased or created out of the foreign funds. Once you click on Add Assets, you will be prompted to fill the activity which can be selected from the two options provided in the drop-down list: creation of movable assets and creation of immovable assets. Then you can move on to provide the details of the assets, that is the nature of asset purchased and the purpose or the project for which the asset has been purchased, along with the amount spent. Coming to the next sections of the form, the details of SBI FCRA account followed by another FCRA account, and then all the utilization bank accounts held by the organization needs to be filled. Complete details such as the account number, IFSC, date of opening the account, and the email ID with the contact number of the branch has to be filled for all such accounts. So it is evident that without opening of the SBI account and approval thereof, the annual return for event 2019-20 cannot be filed by the organizations. The bank details are followed by the set of questions related to the association, which relates to various compliances to be met under the FCRA Act and to ensure that the organizations has duly complied with all. Such questions have to be answered by each organization by clicking on either yes or no, and in case of yes, provide the further details as required in the form. However, except the first and 11th question, if any question is marked in yes, it might be considered as the violation of FCRA regulations. I repeat, except the first and 11th question, if any question is marked in yes, it might be considered as the violation of FCRA regulations. So let us see what are those two questions. Any foreign contribution was transferred to any FCRA registered association, and any fixed asset acquired out of the foreign contribution has been sold out. The answer to first one also can be yes only till the annual return of financial year 2020-21, because after the amendments in 2020, this too has been debarred and shall be considered as a violation. Why I am saying 2020-21? Because the law came into force from 29th September 2020, and till then such transfer was allowed. And next question, that is the any asset acquired out of the foreign contribution has been sold out, can of course be in positive if any asset has actually been sold out which was purchased from the FCRA funds. The next section relates to the first question of the previous section. Here you need to give the details of those foreign contributions which you have transferred to other FCRA registered organizations. So if you have selected yes to this question in the previous section, the details need to be provided here. The name of the organization, the purpose of the transfer, the date of transfer, and the amount transferred. So the details of receipt and utilization is over now. The next section is about the unutilized funds available with the organization at the end of the financial year. Now this section has been divided into two parts. the unutilized fund kept as investment in fixed deposit, and debt kept as cash and bank balances with a breakup of cash in hand, balances designated bank account, and the balance in utilization bank accounts. Ensure that the closing balance so provided matches with that mentioned in the CA certificate, and also the closing balance of the table which is given in the earlier section of the form where you provided the project wise details. Finally, towards the end, the details of those land and building which was purchased or created out of foreign funds but is still unutilized for more than 2 years needs to be filled, providing the location, purpose and the year in which it was purchased or created, along with the reason for such unutilization. At last, the requisite documents, as can be seen on the screen, needs to be uploaded before proceeding and clicking on submit, after checking the box related to a small declaration from the chief functionary. So this was all about filling up of form FC4, the FCRA annual return. For any clarification, feel free to contact us. Thank you.